Welcome back to Hindustan Astrology. I'm Katya, and in today's video, I want to talk about something that is really fundamental to understanding what Vedic astrology is, and that is the history of astrology. Now, I was watching this documentary, I think it was made in the 90s, with Leonard Nimoy narrating it on the history of astrology. And I just couldn't help but just throw my hands in the air because what I know now from studying with scholars from India and other Westerners who have taken this subject very seriously, what we've been told is a lie. And we need to kind of unpack some of that material that we've been told about the history of Western astrology and Vedic astrology. So without further ado, let's take a look at the clip.
The astrology practiced today was born over 4,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, now modern-day Iraq. Ancient civilizations in the region created some of the world's first cities and developed early agriculture. They were also among the first to turn sky watching into a fortified system of astrology, a method which remains basically unchanged even now. The Babylonian system of astrology might have been lost forever. Alexander the Great had not taken its study back to Greece after his conquest of Mesopotamia.
When Alexander the Great invaded the East in 330.
Okay, you guys. Here's the deal. Okay, so let's unpack this. 331, Alexander the Great invaded what we now know as modern-day Iraq, which was actually the Babylonian Empire, okay? Before the Babylonians were the Sumerians. And what we know about the connection between the Babylonians and India are the Dravidians. Now, where did the Dravidians come from? Because those are the people that sang the Vedas. From what I understand, the Dravidians were actually like a part of India. They were not separate. And from what I understand now, the research that they're doing now is that what we know of as Babylon actually came from India. So we've actually got it reversed. What we know is the oldest form of astrology, Babylonian astrology, is not independent of India. They were related. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, when Alexander the Great came to Iraq, he didn't just burn down Persepolis. He also burned down Persian astrology because what he took back to Greece was like a game of telephone. You know, you tell it to one person, and the next person, by the end you get to the in person, the message is so changed, it's like nothing like the original, right? So what happened was when, Alexander was on his conquest to take in all this land, he wasn't just after the land and the money associated with it. He was after the knowledge. He was building the Alexandria Library in Egypt. And so he wanted their books. And the Babylonians actually had things written down in cuneiform. That was something that he could have them translate for him. And it was something, yes, they were on clay tablets, but this was information that was more accessible to him. And so what he did was he took the little knowledge that was given to him. Now, I'm sure that just like any race that's been conquered, they're not going to give you 100% of their secrets, right? It's just going to be a little bit. So he took the little bit that he knew of back to Greece, and then they took it and ran with it. What was that little bit? Well, he took back the tropical zodiac. Now, if you know anything about Persian astrology, you know that they use three different wheels. So they use a circular chart. In the middle is the sidereal zodiac. That is the real-time placement of the stars and planets. That's when you look up to the night sky. That's what it is, right? That's what most Vedic astrologers use. That's the traditional thing. Around that, they had the tropical zodiac, which is the seasonal changes depending on the sun's, the sun's glance at the earth, essentially, determines the seasonal changes. And that is the second wheel. And then the third wheel are the comets and the asteroids. So really, the Persian astrology is really the most comprehensive of all systems. But what Alexander took back to Greece was just the tropical. Okay. So when Alexander got to India, and I know this from one of my teachers, my Sanskrit teacher, my wonderful, wonderful Sanskrit teacher and mantra coach, Dr. Katie Jane. She said that once they got to India, Alexander said, "Give me your books," right? Well, they handed them a bunch of palm leaves written in, a language he couldn't decipher. And they said, "Here you go. Have fun." And he was like, "I can't read this. What palm leaves? These are going to disintegrate." And plus, the Vedas were an oral tradition. So they, chant the text. It's a living text. It's an oral tradition. It's not just something that can be written down. So basically, what we know is that the Vedas is where astrology came from, that we know of today. Now, I'm not trying to say that different cultures don't have their own form of astrology. They certainly do. I'm talking about Western astrology and its real roots. Its real roots came from Babylon, and then before that came from India. Okay. And I would say Western's about 10% of Vedic because of what Alexander did. And so I feel like this is something important to acknowledge if you're going to understand anything about astrology, because it all came from India that we know of it today. It's very clear that the Persians, had it right the first time, and Alexander really, really kind of screwed it up for us, because you're so much more than your sun sign, you guys. Your sun sign is just your ego. And, of course, Western astrology would be ego-based. And so we really have to look at the roots, look how India was ignored, much as a lot of the Native American folklore in this country has been kind of shoved under the carpet. That's what, colonialism does. And so I just want you to see that, Vedic astrology is a system that's thousands and thousands of years old, and it works so incredibly well. And so don't be confused when you see documentaries like this that are kind of twisting the facts a little bit. Okay. All right, you guys. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.